This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my only friend. The end of our elaborate.
I'm gonna have to open my movie by quoting another, Great Expectations. I'm not gonna tell the story the way it happened. I'm gonna tell it the way I remember it. Two stories of innocence from the city of my youth, my hometown, San Francisco. We grow up in these places we figure like the back of our hands, and then we leave, and all that's left is the memory of a place and a time, a place that's moved on as we have. Memories haunt me. I went back to my city to relive them. Every day of my childhood was a challenge. I lived across town from where I went to school. I lived in the southernmost area of San Francisco, a block in from the Daly City BART station. I went to school out by the beach in the Richmond district all my life. On average, I'd spend about 3 hours a day on the bus crossing the city. Some days were quicker than others, and some days were torture. On occasion, friends would ride with me. They'd always want to sit at the back of the bus. I didn't. I was always worried because they'd get off before we hit the rougher areas of the route. I could never tell them. Maybe it was a masculine ego sort of thing, or maybe I was afraid, or maybe the same thing. So on those days when we sat in the back of the bus, I was forced to endure the situation. My heart would pound as we hit certain stops. I never felt safe in my 18 years of growing up. You work out patterns, avoiding eye contact, keeping in public areas. I dressed reserved and moved quickly. Most battles I lost. I wouldn't fight and I wouldn't run. If they caught me and I believed their threats of violence, I'd take it. One day I was riding in the front of the bus. It was really crowded that day. There were as many people standing up in the aisles as there were in the seats. It was full. I stood towards the front. I was almost home, 2 stops away. We just passed Stonestown when I felt someone's hand reaching into my back pocket. I turned and looked back and saw a large guy, late teens, early 20s. I was around 16 at the time. He hovered over me. There was a cold, aggressive look in his eyes. Our eyes met and I pinched my eyebrows in a display of distaste. I'd caught you, quit fucking around, I thought. I turned back towards the window terrified. I could feel my heart pulsate with every ounce of my body. I felt him lean into me. I remember his breath on my ears. He taunted me. "I'm gonna fucking kill you, don't fucking move. I'll fucking destroy you," he methodically chanted into my ear. I knew his attempts were to freeze me. I felt him go for my wallet a second time. I shifted to the side, pulling my pocket out from around his hand. 30 seconds had gone by since the last stop. Life was moving in slow motion as the rush of adrenaline and fear overwhelmed me. He began his ranting again. "You're fucking dead, I'll fucking stab you, don't fucking move." The bus stopped, San Francisco State. Shit, a populated area, the last one. I got off the bus and walked over to a bench. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw his outline behind me. I sat down on the bench thinking I'd wait him out for the next bus. He followed the line I'd cut and sat down on the bench right next to me. The corner of his eye was burning a hole in the side of my head. I couldn't have gotten out any words if I'd wanted to. The sense of self-respect and pride infused with anxiety and fear dictated my doing nothing. I couldn't ask for help. I could barely think. A shuttle was parked waiting for students. It was small and confined, too vulnerable. Logically thought through, there was no way he could follow me in. A line had formed. I watched as it got smaller and smaller, calculating my move. I saw my opportunity. There were only a couple people left. He was wiped out of my peripheral vision. I made a straight line for that front door. If it's full, I'm fucked. I had to stand outside for a beat. I could feel him watching me. I'm too young. The driver's gonna stop me. I got on. I looked through the front window. He's still watching me from the bench. I leaned in like I was telling the driver something. He didn't get up. I still didn't feel safe. The bus took me to the BART station. I walked the remaining 2 blocks with more dedication and force than I'd ever done before. I climbed my steps. My hands were shaking as I inserted my keys into the locks. It took me hours to come down, but I'd outplayed him. My king was intact. As disconnected as it may sound, I felt a little proud of myself for enduring and not running. A hero's trial, one of many. It's a memory I hold close, a taste of the worst of my relationship with the city, but not one I'd ever want to forget.
And his skin is cold. The West is the
A second memory, a lighter one. My first quote-unquote love was a girl named Felicia, though she never knew. Argonne Elementary. I met her in first grade. God, she was beautiful. We shared schools for more than a decade, but I never really got to know her. I knew her for 12 years. I can sum our relationship up to 3 distinct days that stick out in my memory. Argonne was an all-year-round school, very progressively creative, so we were afforded the luxury of some very interesting projects. Fort Point, 5th grade, an old military base stationed under the Golden Gate Bridge, now owned by the National Park System. We had an overnight field trip. We got to sleep in the fort, an opportunity which had been cut due to funding issues by the time I hit high school. So there we found ourselves, a class of 5th graders playing soldier for a day. She and I were members of the mess group, responsible for the dinner for the evening. The day came and went. We rotated positions, mess, artillery, medical unit, etc. We went around during the day and learned how to operate Civil War cannons and what drugs to prescribe for illnesses common to the time and stuff like that. For the medical unit, a teacher would come up and grab you out of the task you were doing and would tell you have a disease, like smallpox for example. Then they tell you what symptoms to tell your quote-unquote doctor you have so they can diagnose it. We'd walk up and say our arms hurt and not moving after a fall, or that we'd broken out in hives, and students supplying the medicine would cross-reference what we claimed to be experiencing with their descriptions of the illnesses and give us pills or wrap our arms or whatever was to be prescribed. The pills were candy, so I couldn't complain. Insight into who I was as a child. One of the activities we were forced to participate in was writing a letter to be sent home to our family. I refused to do it, to which they replied I had to. Perverse as I was, I said, alright, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it my way. I wrote the letter home to my family from the point of view of our general, a role played by a friend of mine, notifying them of my death in combat. I had Mark sign the letter. My teacher laughed. The day passed. Our parent supervisor melted the soup we'd prepared. He left the Campbell's chicken noodle soup cooking all day, which melted the noodles and created a pathetically boring mush for dinner. It was great for the role-playing aspect of the field trip, but it tasted like crap. Into the night, we had shifts of guard duty. I remember looking up at the Golden Gate Bridge in awe of its mass, standing maybe 70 feet above us. It was a full moon, one of those magical nights you take with you for the rest of your life. I remember walking the dark halls of the war fort with her on my arm, frightened of what could be hiding behind every shadow. That night I was too excited to sleep. It was arranged co-ed with our groups, and she and I were up talking most of the night. She relentlessly tried to pry out of me who I liked. It was a difficult situation to be in, seeing how I'd admired this girl in front of me for the last 5 years. It was killing me. I eventually set up a scenario where she had to guess. I've never been one secure in myself. I didn't know what to do. She went through every name she could think of twice. Robin Burt, she said. A girl I'd once had a crush on. I bailed out. It was her, yeah. I didn't have the courage to tell her the truth. We continued to talk that night. She promised never to tell my secret. Day 2, graduation, 5th grade. It was a hot day. I wore a baseball cap. I always wore caps. I remember my teacher motioning for me to take it off during the ceremony. I pretended to not see her. I remember talking to Felicia. I had her write in my yearbook, though I can't remember what I wrote in hers. We were on the steps of one of the bungalow classrooms which had been torn down long ago. She smirked as she wrote. I promised her I wouldn't read it till later. I took my yearbook back and closed it, relishing the anticipation of my read later on that day. We graduated, nothing special. I read her message during the car ride home. It was simple, a sentence, a bit of advice for the journey that was to become of my life. Never trust a girl, she wrote. We went on to middle school together at Presidio, didn't speak for 3 more years. Then out of the blue one day, in 8th grade, I was walking down the center steps of the school when I noticed her coming down behind me. I turned right, moving past the offices. She had caught up with me and was in step. Our eyes met with acknowledgement, and she spoke. Do you remember me? Are you kidding? I thought. This is a girl I'd admired for over the course of 8 years now. With this smirk, I replied, yes, I remember you. Then what's my name? I said Felicia. As I remember, she smiled and said I was right. And then the moment was over. I went straight and she went right, and we never spoke again, ever. Life has a strange way about it. The fashion of how people meet and interact and share moments in time and in place. We never see the whole picture till the present is long gone and we're allowed the luxury of perspective. Upon telling this story to my father, he remembers Felicia looking at him curiously during a parent-teacher night, interested in who my father was, or at least that was his impression. I'll probably never know both sides of this story, nor the one on the bus. They're both memories I hold dear to this day, though. My stories are synonymous with my city, with my hometown. It's a shell for my content. She and I went to the same high school for 4 more years, and we never had another moment. It was a relationship of only 8 hours over 12 years, but to this day it still remains one of my fondest memories of youth. That afternoon on the bus still haunts me as well, though I can now tell the story with a smile. After high school, I went on to college at Davis. My dad moved out of the city soon after. I go back on occasion. I still have my old clique of friends back there. I'm only a visitor now, though. The city lives on and changes, but I'm not a part of that change. The San Francisco that was my hometown is sealed up in a bottle on my shelf. Everything's a ghost of a moment. I look back at the good and the bad, and I'm thankful for all of it. Thank you.